The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass. What was, what will be, and what is, may yet fall under the shadow. For centuries, gleemen have told the tales of the great hunt of the Horn. So many tales about each of the hunters, and so many hunters to tell of. Now the Horn itself is found, the Horn of Valir, long thought only legend, the Horn which will raise the dead heroes of the ages, and it is stolen. In pursuit of the thieves, Rand al'Thor is determined to keep the Horn out of the grasp of the Dark One. But he has also learned that he is the Dragon Reborn, the champion of light destined to stand against the shadow time and again. It is a duty and a destiny that requires Rand to uncover and master magical capabilities he never imagined he possessed. Welcome back to the Pages of Light podcast, your destination for discussions of popular fantasy and science fiction novels from a Christian worldview. My name is Tyler, aka Verum, and with me as always is Gabriel, aka the Quarantine Quartermaster. Welcome back to the podcast, Gabe. How you doing?
Doing good. Ready for round 4 of Robert Jordan.
Round 4? Oh yes, this will be round 4 because we did 3 episodes on book 1. Actually, it might be round 5 because we did the episode on the TV show. So, depending on how you want to break it up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. 5. Yeah, this is round 5. 4 if we're just counting the books. But, yeah. This is round 5. Let's do it.
Round 5. All right. Yeah, so we're going to be continuing the Wheel of Time. We're in book 2, which is called The Great Hunt. And, yes, we're going to talk a little bit about this book compared to The Eye of the World, and we'll just kind of walk through the plot a little bit of this book, and we'll see how far we get. Hopefully we'll do about half the book in this episode, and then we'll do the second half and the ending in part 2, and we'll see how far we get. We had to do 3 parts on book 1 because there was just so much, and it was our first kind of foray into the Wheel of Time, so there's a ton of stuff to talk about there. So since we're now kind of like in the world and we kind of have our bearings, we might be able to be a little bit more streamlined in these ones. But we'll see. We have to leave room for some side quests, of course.
Correct.
As we do on this podcast. So, all right, yeah. So to kick off, we'll just start off with talking about which book did you prefer, book 1, The Eye of the World, or book 2, The Great Hunt? Which one did you enjoy reading more?
I'm gonna go with for reading more, I think I'm gonna go with the first book, The Eye of the World, because it opened a new world. Robert Jordan spent a lot of time creating the characters and showing how the magic worked and how his world was built and all the magical creatures like Loyal and the Fades. That was very cool to get introduced to everything very new. So I'm gonna go with book number 1. How about you, Tyler?
Cool. I'm gonna go with book 2. I think this one yeah, I think I just liked how it was the plot maybe was a little bit more focused, and we kind of knew what was happening the whole time. When we were the whole goal of the whole book was to get the horn, and so that was the goal for the whole book. So it was a little bit more streamlined. Whereas in book 1, you didn't necessarily you're trying to get to Tar Valon or Caemlyn, but you don't really know I didn't really understand like what the end goal was in book 1, and I feel like the ending of the book just kind of like snuck up and be like, oh, and we're done, kind of a thing. So I think this second book was a bit more. This is the goal. We're going along our plot, and we're doing some different things, but like we still have the main goal in mind. Like we didn't forget about it, because they don't find the horn till the very end of the book. So yeah, and we get some interesting new characters in this, and some new people, some new places. I always like to go see a new place, which there was a lot of in book 1 as well. So yeah, this was a good one. So that's gonna be mine.
Oh yeah, I like them both. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I like the character development in here, and how yeah, I mean, it's a hard choice between the two for sure.
Sure. Yeah. The first one does a really good job of like all the world building. I think it was maybe just like the story structure was the issue I had with the first book, but that was the first book in the series, so I'm sure like there's 14 books, so there's a lot of room for improvement on all sorts of levels. So I'm sure Robert Jordan like, got better and better as he kept writing in this world. So hopefully the books just keep getting better from here. All right, next section, we're just gonna do one of our favorite quotes from the book. I'll go first. So one of my favorite quotes from this book was Lord Agomar talking to Rand in chapter 8. I think this is right before they go on the hunt and try to find the horn. And so Lord Agomar says to Rand, he says, "Do not let the horn seize you, Rand. It can take hold of a man. I know it can. And that is not the way. A man must seek duty, not glory." I thought that was just like some good wisdom from Lord Agomar to young Rand to kind of like make sure his head's in the right place, and not to do things because he wants to like do it for himself or to be powerful or to have people adore him or get glory, but he should do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's what he needs to do, not because of any like personal benefit it's going to give him. Which, I mean, it's good advice now as well. Like, you shouldn't do things just to have glory, and you should do them because it's the right thing to do. So, yeah, that was one of my favorite quotes.
Very
what
nice.
Do you got?
So this is from Varen Sedai. "You are the dragon reborn. Oh, you can die, but I don't think the pattern will let you die until it is done with you. Then again, the shadow lies on the pattern now, and who can say how that affects the weaving? All you can do is follow your destiny." Varen Sedai to Rand. So I picked this quote because I think it's interesting how, like, I think about God and our stories in life. Like, God may have a plan, but when it says the shadow lies on the pattern, we live in a fallen world. So there are things that will come up and rise against people who are on God's path. People can be, oppressed by people or by even like supernatural forces. And it's, following God isn't always easy. And so I think it's interesting that we make the mention of like the shadow lies on the pattern. So we don't live in Eden. We don't live in heaven where God's will is perfectly done. We have to account for, the devil. There is a monster, a lion prowling around ready to eat you if you don't pay attention. So that's why I was drawn to this quote.
Yeah, that's a good quote. All right. If you guys have a favorite quote, you can leave a comment down below. Let us know what one of your favorite quotes was. Yes, please do. All right, now let's just jump into some of the like the actual story elements. And in the beginning of this book, there's actually it's like before the prologue. is like a little excerpt from an in-world book called, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but the Karaethon cycle, the prophecies of the Karaethon. Gabe coming in clutch with the pronunciation.
Yep. The Karaethon cycle. Prophecies of the Dragon. Cycle.
Yes, this is like an in-world book, and it's a quote similar to Brandon Sanderson's books, where he will, especially in the Stormlight Archive, where he will, before each chapter, he will pull small quotes from different things in the world. So for one part of the book, it'll be from an in-world book. From one part, it'll be from a letter from somebody writing to somebody else. So kind of in that same vein. And so this is a prophecy about the Dragon Reborn. And it's a little bit long, but I'll just read it here. It says, "And it shall come to pass that what men made shall be shattered, and the shadow shall lie across the pattern of the age. And the Dark One shall once more lay his hand upon the world of man. Women shall weep, and men shall quail, as the nations of earth are rent like rotting cloth. Neither shall anything stand nor abide. Yet one shall be born to face the shadow, born once more as he was born before, and shall be born again, time without end. The dragon shall be reborn, and there shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth at his rebirth. In sackcloth and ashes shall he clothe the people, and he shall break the world again by his coming, tearing apart all ties that bind. Like the unfettered dawn shall he blind us and burn us, yet shall the dragon reborn confront the shadow at the last battle, and his blood shall give us the light. Let tears flow, O ye people of the world, weep for your salvation." So that was like a prophecy of what the Dragon Reborn is supposed to do and what's supposed to happen whenever he comes. I just thought it might be an interesting discussion to talk about like biblical prophecies and things that prophesied the coming of Jesus, and some similarities to how this Dragon Reborn prophecy is with Rand. So like something that really stood out to me is like he will confront the shadow at the last battle, and his blood shall give us the light. That seems like some pretty, it's very similar to like how Jesus's blood will give us salvation, and Jesus will come back at his second coming and confront the shadow for the last time and defeat Satan once and for all. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that quote at all, Gabe? Or
oh yeah, this is a good quote. I mean, lots of parallels to the Bible here. It's like Jesus, but also it's like mixing in a little bit of the Hinduism, like the reincarnation. So it's a little bit of a
hybrid
mix and match here. Yeah. So and then they use the biblical words like time without end. I remember saying that when I was doing mass at Central Catholic here at Pittsburgh, time without end. And then also there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Like that's a line from the Bible that you hear a lot. And so tearing apart all ties that bind. And so Jesus said that he will break families, and people should follow him, and they should not be true to like their family or the people. They should be true to him, and the Dragon Reborn is doing the same thing. So I mean there's plenty of like biblical words in here and themes, and then it's it's our book here, so it's the Karaethon cycle and how it's supposed to happen over and over again, time without end. And then the breaking of the world. That was a good thing to pull in here, Tyler. I approve.
I always like to look for like things like in universe. Like I love the little pulls from like in-world books. I think it's a really cool type of world building to like think about the books that would have been written in that world and what they would have said about the events happening now. I read something about there's a book. It's like The World of the Wheel of Time or something. It was kind of like an encyclopedia of like the Wheel of Time that came out like whenever the books were being written. And I think Robert Jordan at one point said to one of the people writing some of the articles, like they asked him a question about the universe and like what was real about the history, and he told them to just write it like how they thought it would have happened, and not give him like an actual answer, because he wanted the book to feel like the history was written by fallible people. And like, so like if you're reading something from a historian, that historian has a particular perspective on the events that are taking place, and he may or may not see the whole picture, right?
The winners.
What's that?
History is told by the winners is something that we say.
Yeah, exactly. Class. So if you're reading something from a historian, you may not be getting the full picture or even the whole truth, right? So I think that's interesting that he kind of, and that's, some people like didn't like that because it's supposed to be like an encyclopedia, but that was like kind of his philosophy on it, and I thought that was like an interesting little tidbit about how he thought about like the world building and stuff.
Yeah.
So
hey, it's true to life.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we like him as an author, is like he deeply considers like the way that his characters will be feeling in a given situation.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah, so that was before the prologue. Now we can jump into like the actual prologue, in which we have in the book it just refers to him as the man called Bors. Is that what the man who calls himself Bors? Because everybody at this meeting is like hidden, like their identities are not shared with us. Although there's like hints that you can find about who the people are based on him looking at who all of the people around him are. And this is basically just like a big group of a bunch of dark friends like getting together, and Baalzamon shows up, and he forces everybody to worship the Dark One, whether they want to or not. And then he like there's this scene where he like speaks into the minds of all of the people. I think it was the actual Dark One who's doing it, not Baalzamon, who is one of the Forsaken. But like he speaks into all of their minds about like a task for each of them to do for him. Were you gonna say something there?
Yeah, I just thought I was thinking that Baalzamon was the Dark One, and that was just the Trolloc name for him, and then his true name is Shaitan. So I thought that he was appearing to them, the Dark One, at this place, and then also speaking into their minds.
Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting scene, like the Dark One like speaking into the minds of the people there, which is like, I'm imagining like how Satan does those kinds of things in our own mind. Or maybe it's not that he's directly speaking to us, but like he, like the things that we think in our mind, like he manipulates into kind of doing, or like making us want to do the things that we shouldn't do instead of pursue the things that are good and are of God. So like it's almost like you're forced to do it. Yeah, we'll talk about in just a minute here. There's like the passage where Paul says like, the things I want to do, I do not do them, and all of that kind of stuff, even though he wants to do good, but he like physically can't because of his sin nature. We will get to that in a second though.
This was a really cool scene to open up the book. And I love that we see Inktar, who is a dark friend. We learned at the very end of the book, he is in the opening pages. They talk about a man from a Shinaran man looking for a sword that's obviously not on his belt, and that's Inktar. And then he gets his instructions from the Dark Lord, and he just looks very confused. And he speaks up at one point and talks like in front of everyone. And then when we go back to Fall Dara, like they said, oh, Inktar, he's been away for days, like on a hunt or something. And now he's coming back. So it never unfolds until like the final few chapters in the book, but I love that little nugget was placed at the like in the opening pages of the book.
Interesting.
That
I don't think I picked up on that.
Oh,
I didn't
trust me, it was like the third time that I listened to it. I was like, "Yep, that's Inktar. He's right there.
Okay,
He's a dark
that is a
friend."
revelation for me. I must have missed is there a reveal at the end of the book too that we
Well,
know that
no,
he's a
no.
dark
I
friend?
mean, but they like it's Robert Jordan building in like, okay, so there's a Shinnarin, which
Sure.
they're in Faldara, which is where all these people
Yes.
are. And it just, you know, and then Inktar is coming back from like a hunt, like he's been off, you know,
Sure.
off the map for a few days. I mean, I don't think it's explicitly said, but I think
Mm.
if you read it closely, you can deduce this thing. So I thought, you know, and
Yeah.
like I said, I don't read the books. You know, I I do read the books, but I just use
Yeah.
my ears, and
Yes.
I like to listen to things multiple times because you get to find those little nuggets in there that the author leaves for you, and then like I don't pick them up until the second or third time hearing the book because they're
Yeah.
so discreet and well disguised, but they're in there, and and that's why I like listening to the book multiple times. It's really helpful for me.
Man, that's crazy. Read the whole book like thinking Inktar is like a super awesome character. Now I don't like him because he's a dark friend. Come on, man. That's lame. Um, maybe that's how they were able to get the attack off on Faldara because Inktar is the insider.
Yeah, he does say that at the end. He says that he let the little man in, and he's like, I still don't know if the arrow was meant for you, Rand the dragon, or if it was for the Amirlyn seat. So
Uh,
Inktar does let the guy in, but I don't know if he also let in the people who, you know, or the Trollocs and the Fades or whatever.
yeah,
Because he is fighting a Fade at one point, but you know
yeah,
he's a double agent, so he has to maintain his cover.
yeah. Oh, crazy! I didn't realize that. Well, thank you for illuminating me. Uh, see,
Let
that's
there
the
be
there's
illumination.
there's like with these epic fantasies, like there's so many things like that that you might miss when you first read it.
Oh,
So
yeah, I didn't catch it the first time. I don't even think I caught it the second time. I was like, and I was ready for the prologue the third time. I was like, okay, yeah. All right, yeah. I was like, who is the Shinarn who's a dark friend at the end of the book? We know it's
yeah,
Inktar, so
yeah.
um, he's got to be the one who was there.
All right. Well, that's too bad because I liked him, but we must move along. So speaking of Faldara, so we're in at the beginning of the book we're in Faldara, and so all of our party members are back in Faldara, and it seems to me like there has been some time that has passed since the ending of the Eye of the World, because
Yeah, I would
Rand
say
has
like
been
maybe weeks to months.
yes, because like Rand has been training with Lan on how to use the sword.
Sure.
And clearly he is a capable swordsman because of what happens at the end of the book, um, which we will get to. But yeah, so clearly some time has passed. And so Rand is basically wrestling with. He's trying to decide if he should stay or if he should leave. Because he doesn't want his friends to be in danger anymore because he thinks the Trollocs and everybody are still just going to be after him. Because I think deep down he knows he's the Dragon Reborn, although nobody's explicitly said it to him. But I think he knows. But he just doesn't want to accept the responsibility of this, or like he doesn't want it to be true. And so he's
Yeah.
wrestling with this. And while this is all happening, there's an attack on Faldara, which apparently Inktar let the people in. Crazy. And yeah, so this is when Padon Fane escapes his jail cell. He attacks Matt and Egwene, who are down there in the jail cell as well. And I think he He also kills the 2 guards that were down there as well, I think, in a pretty gruesome fashion from what I remember. And
yeah, but we don't find them until they're pursuing Padon Thane. I think they were like flayed or something, like, and then they had to like cut them down, like Inktar's group of people. But yeah, that does. I think there are guards killed in Fal Dara, but specifically the 2 captors were taken with him. Yeah, on the march away with the horn.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on just like Rand? We're gonna talk about like Rand, like dealing with him being the Dragon Reborn. Like he talks to the Amirlyn seat and Moraine, and they basically just like it was a good chapter. They basically just like lay it out all on the line, and they're like, okay, here's the deal, here's the prophecies, this is you are the Dragon Reborn, and they just basically tell him straight up. And so Rand is like, nah, that's not true. You're trying to manipulate me. You're trying to get me to do what you want me to do. This is not actually true. And he's very reluctant to accept the responsibility of being the Dragon Reborn. I don't know, any thoughts on that whole scene? I thought it was a pretty cool scene, just them like going through all of the different prophecies and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought, like the and then there was also like a lot of the background talk with like the different Aes Sedai that were there, and there's like information being exchanged between like Verum, not Verum, you're Verum. Verin Sedai, and Moraine and the Amirlyn seat and Liandrin. But yeah, I mean, it was just they were trying to catch Rand off guard, and he walked in there kind of acting like a noble lord because Lan had kind of taught him these skills, and then Lan was like, yeah, I don't know why, I just, he felt like the pattern had kind of led him to teach Rand those things, because he was all about telling, don't act like a pup when you go in there, stand tall and don't be bullied around. And so it turned out well for Rand, I think.
Yeah, I like Lan kind of trying to show him the road so he doesn't look like a fool, basically. Because I mean, he's still a kid, right? I don't remember their ages actually. Were they like 16 or something?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. But yeah, I feel like they're in their between 15 and 20.
Mid-teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mid-late teens.
Yeah. Yeah, so with this scene, I thought we could do like a little bit of discussion about like just the reluctance to accept responsibility. And like that's something that like I do, I'm sure you've done in the past. Like all people have certain things that they know they should do, or they know how they should act. Yeah. And like, but they just don't want to do it, or they don't want to accept it, or they would rather do something that is more selfish or more expedient, or, whatever it is. And that could be something similar that we do like as Christians as well. Like we don't want to, do the things that God wants us to do. Like we can read the Bible and we know what it says, but we just choose not to do the things that it says. And that's partly because of our sinful nature, and that we are sort of like the Saidar, I think it is, the male side of the one power. Like it's tainted, like there's a taint on our souls, in a sense, our sinful nature that we won't fully be able to get rid of until we are given our new bodies. So there's a passage.
So I just looked it up. Sidene is the male half. Saidar is the female half.
Okay. So Sidene, yes, there's a taint on the Sidene. But yeah, there's a passage in Romans chapter 7, 13 through 20. This is Paul. He's kind of like Paul sometimes writes run-on sentences, but stick with it here. So it says, did that which is good then bring death to me? By no means. It was sin, producing death in me through what is good, in order that sin might be shown to be sin, and through the commandment might become sinful beyond measure. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law, that is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good that I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. Oh, man. Every time I read that passage, it's
Bravo,
like a tongue
sir.
twister. And I was like, you can never get through it in one shot without screwing up. It's like impossible.
There's too many small words that repeat themselves, and you're like,
Yes.
am I saying this wrong? Like, am I on the previous sentence, or am I on this sentence?
Yes.
Okay, so why did this quote from Romans come to your mind when you think about this?
I think it just highlights like our sin nature, and Paul's basically saying like, there's things that I want to do that I don't do, basically, and it's because of our sinful nature. And it's not like a direct parallel to like what Rand is dealing with, because I don't know, although I guess technically there's like a taint on the one power, like a sinful kind of portion on it, which is why they go insane. But I think it just kind of points to our reluctance, because of our sinful nature and because like we want to rebel, that we don't do the things that we should do. So that's kind of why this passage stood out to me.
Yeah, and I think it calls, if you're following the Bible and you want to like make yourself more of God and to sanctify yourself, you have to realize that this is the struggle that you're up against, that you're not going to want to do it. And it's not, you can have a heart for it, but you also need help from God. Like, you can pray for help. You can ask God to change your heart and soften your heart. I know one of the things that I really struggled with was forgiveness. So I was in this group, and I was asked very unceremoniously to leave, my wife and I, and there was leadership there. And I just felt like it was handled so poorly. And man, like the Bible tells you to forgive people in that situation. And man, I was so mad, at this group for asking us to leave. And I was like, I thought we were going to get along and be friends. And oh man, yeah, I still struggle with that. Some days it's good, some days it's bad, but yeah, the Bible tells us to forgive. So that's one of my personal struggles in this situation, is I think like how like my heart does not want to let me forgive. But I am called to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the struggle is like accepting the cost, like to us. Like for Rand, like he doesn't want to accept like everything that being the Dragon Reborn comes with. 'Cause that's gonna mean like he's gonna have to do some difficult things, and people around him might die, or he might get hurt, or there could be like a million different things that happen if he accepts this responsibility. And I think we do some things because we don't want the things we think might happen to happen. It's like if we don't do what God wants us to do, then maybe we might lose a relationship, or people might look at us weird, or whatever it is. Like some of the things that are like super small and petty, and some things could be really big and important, but that doesn't reduce the fact that it's still something that we're called to do, I guess. So yeah, it's
do you want to hear a really funny microcosm of this? So
Sure.
like we're called to like give the best to people, and I do 3D printing, and I have these things called Nautilus gears, which are just kind of like a fidget, and they kind of like rotate. And I had printed about 5 of these, and one just was like so. This is the thing, if you see it moving there, one was so much better, and I was like, I wanted to keep it, and I was just like, it's just a piece of plastic. It's an hour and 45 minutes. But I was like, it flows so nice. It feels so much better than the other ones. And I was like, just give it up. Just give it up. And then I was in this struggle, seriously, 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it to the person who asked for it, which happened to be my boss. I was like, I'm going to give it. I'm going to say, this is my best one. Please enjoy it. But it was a struggle to just like give it up. I was like, I wanted it for myself, but I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give out the good ones, because there will be more. There will be more.
Yeah, it's always a struggle, and I think that's something that like we can empathize with Rand in this story, like not wanting to do something that you should do. Like I think everybody, that's like a universal struggle of humanity, is not taking responsibility for things that we should. And that's one of the reasons, like, that's why fantasy stories are so great, because it takes things from real life and real people's situations and brings them into a fantastical realm, so you can like empathize with those characters in the midst of this crazy kind of story that's going on around. So yeah, good stuff. Any other thoughts on that?
No, we talked about a bunch.
Yeah. All right, so that's good. So where were we? They had stolen the horn. So Padan Fain has taken the horn, and he is on the run. And this is basically the whole point of the book. They're hunting for the horn because Padan Fain and his little group of Trollocs and Fades and Murdrals and
Dark Friends,
a bunch of not good people in his little posse, and they basically take the horn, they just like book it, and they're just running essentially. And so now we have a posse going out from Faldara. So we have Rand, Matt, Perrin, Inktar, Huron, and although Varen Sedai comes later, she doesn't go with the party at the beginning, if I'm
yep, you're correct.
Remembering correctly, right? So she shows up a little bit later. She doesn't initially go with them. So it's those, what is that, 6? So those 6 kind of main characters, I guess I would say, in the party, and then a bunch of other Shanaran. How did you pronounce that again?
Shinaran
soldiers. So I think there's like 20 of them. So we got like a group of like 25, 30 people in this little group here. And so basically they're like tracking the Padan Fain and the horn, which is a cool introduction for this other character. His name's Huron. He's what they call a sniffer, which means he can like smell blood, or I'm trying to remember all the different things that he's able to like
violence.
Track. Violence, right.
He could smell violence.
Right. So he's able to basically allow them to follow this group, basically no matter how far away they are, as long as the events that had taken place like were close enough in time that he was able to see like the previous violence, something like that.
Yeah, he was saying like there was like a half-life basically. So if someone had been like physically abusive, it would be around for like a day, but if someone like had been murdered or something, it would be like a weeks or something. And and then there's Fain has a particular smell that Huron's like, I've never smelled the like of it before, but it smells terrible.
He's like a fully corrupted dark friend or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on just like the party going after the horn? There's a few scenes and little stops along the way that were some cool stuff that happened.
That's when we learned that Thane has sort of evolved.
I think you mean Fane with an F.
Yeah. Thane. Is it Thane or Fane.
Fane, with an F.
Fane. Sorry, when I don't hear it or when I don't see it, sometimes it gets
yeah, because you're always listening. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it blends together. Fane. So that's when we learn that Fane has evolved into something new, because there's a murdered Murdral that they find, and then
that was such
the
a cool scene.
little detail of how the cloak moved in the wind versus in the first book when the Murdral's living and it's unaffected by the wind. So that was really cool. And then what could do that to a fade? I think Rand or Matt or Perrin asks, and so we learn about that. And at the end of the book, it's revealed that he has kind of become Mordith from the first book.
Because he has the dagger.
Yeah, because he has the dagger, and so he's part Mordith, part on Fane, and so he's this new kind of creature. And then at the end of the book, you hear him being it's been so long, and I think that's the Mordith side of him, saying how he's been trapped in Shadar Logoth for hundreds and hundreds of years, and he's been waiting. He's just a little bit longer. He's giving himself a pep talk. So that was interesting. And then there was one more thing that I wanted to say. If I think of it, I will come back to it. Might have been about Huron, but that's where I'll leave it at the moment.
Well, there was also the cool scene where I think they went to some village or whatever, and all the people were gone, and Rand's going into, he goes into one of the buildings, and he gets this vision or something where he sees the people that were there. I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering all the specifics of that, but there were some interesting scenes along the way that they as they're hunting with the horn. Something else that kind of happens throughout this book is there's a bit of a tiff, a spat falling out between Rand and Matt and Perrin, because at the beginning of the book, Rand is I need to leave, I need to go off on my own, and so I can not have my friends get hurt anymore. And so he basically tells off Matt and Perrin and Loyal to leave him alone and to not follow him anymore, because I think he said that he was gonna leave, and they were oh well, we'll come with you, and he was no, you can't come with me, and he said a bunch of mean stuff to them. And so it's the classic thing where you have a dog that's trying you're trying to help the dog, but in your attempt to help the dog, you have to throw rocks at it or something to get it to go away because you want to save its life. So that's basically what that's what Rand does to his friends, and they get kind of mad at him. So you kind of get that throughout the book, where they're basically are ignoring him for half the journey, and he'll he'll ride up to the front to where they are, and then they'll just ride to the back. They'll be anywhere you are, we're gonna go the opposite way.
I think that happened in Fall Dara. They were playing cards or something, and talking how Matt was really good with his chances and stuff, and but they took it to heart, and then they're oh, he's gonna be Lord Rand now. He's the Lord Rand, because he has all of his clothes replaced by Moraine. Yeah. She she's oh, by the way, now you just have these super fancy clothes that only the rich people would have.
Yeah.
And it's I'm not not a lord.
Which does play in later to the story when they get to Carian, yeah. So, but we'll get to that. That's probably going to be in part 2. So stay tuned for that discussion. So it was sad that he did it to Loyal too, because Loyal's always been so nice to Rand, and he just why you got to do that to Loyal, man? That's so mean. And I understand what you're trying to do, but man, You could just tell like
Bold.
Loyal was very sad about what Rand had said to him. He's like, "Why would you do that? That's not very nice." Yeah. I think Loyal's a bit more forgiving than
For sure.
His
and the whole reason that
compatriots.
Rand is coming is because Matt's life is in danger. I don't think we've said that yet, but
Yes, yeah.
his whole motivation was like, oh, I've got to help my friend. I've got to help Matt because if he doesn't have the dagger from Shadar Logoth, which has been like bound to him, then he will die. So that's the whole reason Rand is riding out with the party and not going off by himself.
Yeah. Yes, because Matt has to get the dagger back.
That's
he
right.
Needs it. He's linked to it. Yes, that's basically they're going along the hunt. They're going pretty hard because they're trying to catch up to the other people, and there's a portion or there's a scene where they take a break for the night. I can't remember if it was night or not, but it actually doesn't matter.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was a night. And so they're all sleeping, basically, and somehow so it's Rand, Loyal, and the Sniffer, Huron, go through what's called a portal stone, and they go to a different world, which is it's like a mirror universe in a sense, where it's like things are, at least this particular mirror universe is similar to their current world, but just slightly different, where different things in history may have happened to make the world different than what it is where they started from. So they go through this portal, and I'm trying to remember the description. In my head I was imagining it like everything was like all the colors were muted in a way, like everything was like
washed
darker,
out looking.
Yeah. Which obviously gives it away that they're in some other place, and they spend like the first portion of being in there like looking for their friends until they realize, well, we're somewhere else and we don't know what's happening. So, which is, I think it's a pretty cool scene, pretty cool portion of the book where they get to kind of explore this other world. It's kind of like the Ways in a sense. It's like a
and I think they talk about
dimension.
how like so it's kind of like in a way it's kind of like Marvel's multiverse, like they kind of describe it as like a reality that could have happened. However, how it's different from the Marvel, everything in the multiverse in the Marvel arena is very real. And here it's like the less likely that this would happen, like the more faded out it is. So the reality that this portal stone took them to was like not likely to happen, and that's why everything was kind of like washed out. And then we learned later that the Aes Sedai had kind of studied portal stones, and that's how they were able to create the Ways. So it was like kind of the study of these different worlds. This was a really cool idea. And so basically Rand activated it somehow through Sidene, because the portal stones can only be used by the one power, which is very interesting because we have a very mysterious character who we don't know how ended up in
would you mind telling us about this mysterious character?
Oh, this mysterious character is Selene. I have a theory about Selene, but we'll just talk about her as a character. So they're like traveling for days, I think, in the other world, and they're just like, well, we just gotta keep going. And Huron the whole time is like, I can smell Thane, and then there's this weird like dialogue where he's like, I'm smelling where he's going to be. And so they are like tracking him through time and space, like something out of Doctor Who. But the whole time that they are like going through this world, they are not meeting anyone. There is nobody. It is a dead, desolate wasteland. And then all of a sudden, there's this piercing scream, ah! Like someone's being murdered, and Rand's like, I'll take care of it, and he goes and he dashes off, and he finds a woman there being attacked by a creature called a Grome, which is like a frog bear hybrid with 3 eyes. And then the way you kill them is you take an arrow and you get into the void and you shoot the arrow into their middle eye and they drop like stones. Yeah. And then Selene is like the epitome of like cold beauty. She is unflappable. Like, she's like, my lord, the only way you can kill them is if you hit them between the third eye. And then yeah. And then Rand is like very attracted to her, and he gets like very uncomfortable when he sees her. Like, I don't know,
she's being purposely seductive too. So
oh yeah,
to be fair.
And then she's also like, you know, Rand is very uncomfortable because he's not used to being in these situations, and he's very attracted to her. And she is just like, she's kind of like this hot and cold. Like, she's like, imagine it, Rand, you holding the horn and me by your side, like whispering the things that he wants to hear and like tempting him. Mm-hmm. And then like, so, okay, we're going to go through escaping back into the real world. So they are being
go through all this time in the portal stone, and then we'll go, to Egwene and Nyneave. We'll go do that little section.
Yeah. So so they're tracking the horn, and then Selene is revealing all this, like, I wouldn't say forbidden knowledge, but definitely like esoteric. Like, she is more well versed than than Loyal, and all Loyal does is read, and she knows more than Loyal. So, and she knows about the Grome, and
seems like she's been there for a bit, because she knows about things in there and what's going on.
So, and then she's like, they're tracking Thane, and they're trying to find a way out. And then they're being chased by a new like pack of Grome, and then they find a second portal stone, and they kind of like Rand activates it, and then they are able to escape. And then there's this whole power shift where Huron views Rand as a lord, even though Rand's like, I'm not a lord, and he's like, and Rand describes Huron's thought process like, you know, lords are there to take care of the problems of the common people, and he's like placed this, and so Rand is, you know, taking responsibility, like he is supposed to be taking care of his people. And so Huron is saying like, I trust you, Lord Rand, and he's like, don't call me Lord Rand, but it's this interesting power dynamic that evolves, that Rand has become the leader in this position, and Huron's like okay with it. And he's like, okay, I'll follow you, and you're gonna get me out of this, and I'll keep doing what I'm good at, which is smelling stuff.
I think Rand has like the leadership qualities, like he has the decision making and like the ability to like plan ahead to make good decisions, but he doesn't necessarily want like the title, and like he has the leadership qualities, but I don't think he wants the responsibility of like being the leader, you know what I mean? Sort of like how he doesn't want to be the Dragon Reborn.
He wants to just sink back into obscurity. That's what he wants.
He just wants to go back to the way things were, basically.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss anything else relevant in the Portal world?
I think one thing I liked in the Portal world was whenever he has to shoot those Gromes, and he's like the best shot with the bow and arrow like ever. Like he hits all three of them with one arrow each directly in their eyeball as they're running at them, which he's obviously channeling and using that to make the arrow fly straight and where it needs to go. Which is actually depicted in the TV show where he like whenever they're at Dara, and he's going to practice shooting his arrows. Whenever he starts to channel the arrows, they are bullseyes every time. So it's a cool scene in the show.
If
you haven't seen it yet.
And then Selene starts talking about like the oneness, which is what Rand calls the void. And she's telling him like, you need to clothe yourself in this, like you need to be in the oneness at all times, and kind of like coaching him to like use his void. And Rand is very much like on the fence about using the void, because when he enters the void, Sidene is there and calls to him, and he's very opposed with his Two Rivers nature, very stubborn. You know, it could what do they say about Two Rivers people? That they could teach stones. And so he doesn't want to use the power, but when he enters the void, it's there and it calls to him.
And he's also afraid of going insane, right? He doesn't want to channel and use Sidene and then further his process of insanity, right? Like he doesn't want that to happen. So he thinks like, if I don't give into it, then I'll extend the amount of time that I have a sound mind, right? So... And
then we cross back into the real world, and just to finish up with Selene, they ride by this big excavation that's going on, and they stay the night at an inn, and then they're going to go on to Carian, and she leaves Rand a note that says, "I'll see you in Carian."
Yeah.
And she just kind of drops off the map at that point in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think she said that they should try to get to Carian when they're in the Portal Stone. So that was like their plan from the beginning, I think, whenever they got out. Because I think she said something about like she's a lady there or something, or she's somebody special in Carian.
She did claim that.
That's right. She claimed
because when they get there, everyone's like, "Who are you talking about?"
Yeah,
because Rand's like talking to the guy, and he's like, "I've explained to you 14 times what she looks like. How can you not have found out where she lives or whatever?"
Yeah, so everything about her is just mysterious. So we're not sure, and we don't. I'm trying to remember. We don't really get any more answers to the rest of the book, do we? Of like,
nope. So should I do my theories now? I've got theories.
If they
should I wait till? They're about Selene and her identity.
Do they include conversations about stuff in Carian? Because we'll do that on the next episode. If not, you can continue.
I can wait. I'll wait.
Can wait?
We'll talk about it next episode. I'll tell you my thoughts.
Stay tuned for part 2 to hear Gabe's theories on who Selene is.
Yep.
No spoilers in the comments. Don't leave a comment ruining stuff. Don't do that. That's no fun.
Yeah, Tyler, aka Verum, does not like spoilers. I'm like, meh. It's all right with me.
It's dangerous to browse the wikis. Do it at your own peril. Yes. Okay. So they go. They escape out of the other world, but they figure out. So when they travel through the portal stone, they come out like way ahead of where Podon Fane is and the rest of the group that they left. So before they get to Carian, well, actually, we're going to talk about this in the next episode. So we'll do that because they steal the horn back from Podon Fane.
And Nyneave?
Yeah, they steal the horn back from Podon Fane after they get through the portal stone before they go to Carian, actually. Right.
Yep. And Loyal's like the big guy who's like carrying the whole chest, which is enormous and super heavy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next episode. First, and this will be our last section for this episode, and then we'll move on to episode 2 where we'll finish the book. So this last section is we'll just talk about Egwene and Nyneave at the White Tower, because whenever Rand, Matt Perrin here and the whole party, they're off hunting the horn. The Egwene and Nyneave and Moraine and the Amirlyn seat, they all go back to Tar Valon, and this is where Nyneave and Egwene can start training to become Aes Sedai. And so Nyneave, because I think because of how powerful she already is, they're basically gonna allow her to try and skip like the novice phase and go straight to like the middle tier, which is the accepted. So it goes novice, accepted, full Aes Sedai.
Right.
So I think that's kind of just basically because she's already super powerful, they're not going to make her go through the novice phase.
Yeah, I really like the scene like on the boat where they're going to Tar Valon, and she like the Amirlyn seat comes in, and like she levitates like Egwene and Nyneave, and Nynaeve's like, don't you do that to me, and she like pins the Amirlyn seat like down like on the ground, and then they like can't move, like they're both like frozen, and then the Amirlyn seat's like, I just cut you off from the true source, sorry about that.
Yeah, so she is powerful, and so in order for her to go through these, or in order for her to skip the novice, she has to pass the accepted trials. I should just bring these up so I don't forget what they are.
Oh, please do, because these are really good things. I know the first one is like a maze or something. She's trying to find her way out. So I'll just do a little bit of setup while Tyler's pulling this up. So there's a ritual that to move from novice to accepted that you have to go through with. It's like a sort of Angreal. It was like an ancient relic from the Age of Legends that when the Aes Sedai would touch it, they weren't sure what it did initially, and now it's become the centerpiece of this ritual. And basically, when you touch this stone or you go through it, and they always say the way back comes but once, and don't miss it. Yep. That like you will be shown things that are like near and dear to you, and then the whole objective to become the accepted is to deny those things and choose being a sister and an Aes Sedai over these different paths that you could have gone down. And some Aes Sedai get lost in the stone and never return, because they do say that the way back comes but once. And then another weird quirk is you're not supposed to be able to channel in there, and if you do, you might burn yourself out and never be able to use the one power again.
Yep. Thank you for the
floor
setup.
Is yours. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so there's like 3 rings is what it says here in the wiki. And so the first ring, like you said, transports her to a giant maze where she battles a facsimile of Agenor, who is the Forsaken that they fought at the end of the Eye of the World. So she's basically battling him, and she's winning, but the thing is she can't finish him off. She has to leave. And then the second one, they're more like personal, and so those are, the first one is that she gets a vision of being back at Emma's Field, because Emma Fields is in trouble and she needs to go and help them, but of course she has to leave. Like, she can't go back to Emmons Field. She has to stay and become an Aes Sedai. And she doesn't have to stay, but if she wants to be an Aes Sedai, she has to forsake her responsibility to Emmons Field, right? Because she was the wisdom of Emmons Field, so it's hard for her. This is like her finally accepting, like, I am no longer the wisdom of Emmons Field. Like, I have to leave that chapter of my life behind, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then the last one,
and she does say that in Fall Dara, I think, to Egwene. She's like, you don't need to call me wisdom, and Egwene is very like, huh? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. But it's hard for her to, like, because that was like why she even
not
came
to
on
mention
the adventure in the first place, right?
Yeah, and not to mention the wisdom that has replaced her is like poisoning people and like making herself like she like intentionally like hurts people who disagree with her,
Oh,
and
that's
she's
what was in the
bullying
vision.
people. Yeah, that was what was in the vision, and she finds out all this, and they're like, "Please come back and be our wisdom again." And she was like,
I
"The way
cannot.
out comes but once."
That's right.
And she looked for the arches, and she left.
Um, and then the last one is, she gets a vision with herself, with Lan, and they are married with children, and
Happy.
happy. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, if you watched the Wheel of Time TV show, like the very last episode where Rand is shown like Egwene with a child and their baby, and like the Forsaken is like tempting Rand essentially to like, this is the future you can have. It's like basically that same kind of a scene where they're showing Nyneave something that she wants and something that she would love to have, and she loves Lan and she wants that type of future for herself, but she has to say no to the things that she wants in order to become a true Aes Sedai. So what did you think of like the whole process of these trials, like just the whole like purpose of them, and like denying your own desires and your own wants in order to achieve something like higher, I guess is kind of
Well,
how I put
it shows you're committed if
Yeah.
you can do that, and then, it's just, we're asked to do that for our God and our Christian journey, is to deny yourself and
Indeed.
to drop the ways of the flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and pursue a spiritual life with God, and to do the things His way and not your own.
Yep.
So I mean, there's validity in in this sort of process, is because we do want these things, and like even like in the three trials that she went through, like no, like the third one specifically, like giving up something that you thought you could have. There it's even harder because she's showing a life where she's happy with kids, and like it was successful, and it wasn't like a gamble, like
Yep.
but sometimes you have to give up things for God that you weren't expecting to, like that you personally want to do, and then because that could be like a big dream, or it could be like small things. It all depends on
Yeah.
on your journey with God. So I definitely think that there's validity in having denial. But what's nice is when you follow God, things start to work out. And I remember this quote from this pastor who has since passed, but he said, "When you follow God, when you first start following God, you feel like you're going in the wrong direction." And I really have seen that pan out in the way that, like, when I started pursuing God and investing in my relationship with Him by spending more time in the Bible and doing groups and everything, like, I was also severing ties with people that were not healthy for me and not moving me towards my relationship with Christ, but either keeping me in a holding pattern or moving me away from Christ. And I did feel like my life was going in the wrong direction. And now that I'm on the other side of that 7 or 8 years, like, I just feel like, man, the life that God is allowing me to be responsible for, it is a very nice place. I'm very happy, and I mean, I still struggle, weekly with responsibilities and relationships, but like, I'm in such a better place, a more, like, God says to build your home upon the rock, and He is the rock. And I feel like it took a long time to get off those shifting sands, but I feel like I'm at that place where I am building my house on His rock, and it's good to be here. So I'm all on board with the trials here.
Yeah, that's a good word. I don't have anything to add. Yeah, so yeah, Nyneave. Well, I will say she does pass all the tests, right? She doesn't fail.
Correct.
And she does get to become an accepted, which is good. I don't think she would have been very happy if she had to do like the novice stuff, because they have to like sweep floors and do dishes and like all this
Be
stuff.
very
and,
subservient.
yeah, so I'm sure she's happy she doesn't have to do any of that stuff. So yeah, then we just get some time in the White Tower where like Nyneave and Egwene are like meeting new people, making some friends. They meet Min and Elaine, who we met in the Eye of the World, and we also met Min at the Eye of the World as well. Min was, I think she was in the first town. She was in Barrelon. I think she was at one of the taverns, if I remember correctly.
And then she has a conversation with Rand personally, but also Moraine. But I don't think we have the one-on-one with Moraine. Just kind of like talked about her conversation with Min, but Rand we actually like go into that conversation and see it firsthand.
So both of those characters we have met previously, but this is their first time meeting Nyneave and Egwene, I think.
And they all have this weird thing like, oh, I'm going to marry Rand. No.
That's right. Well, except Nyneave, but yeah.
Yeah, Nynaeve's not part of that. She knows who she loves. But it's Egwene, Min, and Elaine who are all like, oh, I might marry him. Oh.
It's a love square, not a triangle. There's 3 on 1.
Yep.
And well, it's maybe 5 if you add Selene. It's a what's that? What's a 5-sided object? Pentagram. It's a pentagram love thing.
Oh, and then what about Landfear? Landfear comes in at the end and is like, he's mine. All these women.
Yeah. Randus has something about him, I guess.
What could it
be? What could it possibly be? But yeah, I thought it was cool to see like just some scenes of them like hanging out, just chatting, kind of seeing like what life is like in the White Tower, because this is our first time going to the White Tower, so it's cool to see some of that stuff. But at the end of this kind of section here, and this will be the last thing we do, is so Liandrin shows up to their room and has Min and Elaine leave, and she talks to Egwene and to Nyneave and basically tells them like, hey, Rand and all of your friends are in trouble. They're at Tomon's Head, and you need to come with me, and you can't tell anybody else where you're going or why you're leaving or anything. Or you have to do it in secret, and we're going to travel to Tomon's Head, and I think they go through the ways, right?
Yep.
And so we got to go and save them. And so they're like, well, I said I can't lie, right? So she has to be telling some semblance of the truth, right? So they decide, let's go. But Min and Elaine are eavesdropping, as they do, because they want in on everything. And so they just decide, we're coming too. We don't care what you say. And whenever they show up, Liandrin's like, I told you to come alone. And they're like, they already knew. It's not our fault, basically. So they all go through the ways, and they come out on the other side at Tomon's Head. And Liandrin betrays them. She is a dark friend. She is not of the red Ajah. She is of the black Ajah.
Yeah. Yep.
She supports the Dark One. So, which we can kind of see coming because Moraine does not like her at all. And
you're built to not like Liandrin Sedai. Yeah. She's
the show does an exceptionally good job at making you not like Liandrin. So, yeah, she's kind of like she's like a witch. She seems like she's always mad. Does it?
Yeah.
You feel like that way?
Yeah. Yeah, she. Are you talking about in the book or on the show? Because in the book, I definitely feel that way. I definitely
Yeah.
feel like nothing is worth her time. She's always very snippy and
Yeah.
very imperious. Like, you need to do what I'm telling you to do, and you should have done it 10 minutes ago before I told you to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think of the betrayal? Do you think it was? Do you think they were smart to trust her? I mean,
it's just
it was kind of
so
surprising
hard.
to me whenever I read it, but I guess I could kind of understand or see how that would have happened. But
And you know what? It plays out because she says to someone in Dara, and we learn that she has this little mean trick that she can I don't know, I forget what it was. It was she could pinch people or bend their will, and she learned it as a novice. And anyway, she doesn't seem like a very nice character. But yeah, she tells the one Aes Sedai that the Black Aja walks the halls of Dara, and she was referring to herself because she is the Black Aja. And so so we know, so there it's painted, a few chapters before that, and then even as they're on their way to the ways, she's like, if the Black Aja would not be gentle with you if they found you, to the two girls, you might not have lived the night. She's speaking the truth again. They are in danger. But it's just so hard. You're in a new place, and you are, the Aes Sedai are a trusted, people are very leery about Aes Sedai. I don't know. They are driven by their motivation to help the Emond's fielders and to save them and to be there for them. They all choose each other whenever they have the chance. They all want to see good things for each other, and that is a way of manipulating. Liandrin Sedai reads that about them and uses it and gets them to capitulate and to come with them. And then Elaine is chained and becomes a leashed one. She becomes a Damani, attached to a Suldam. And
we'll get to talk about all of the Shan Chan stuff, because we didn't talk about any of those things or who those people even are. So that'll be we'll have to
so she becomes a chained one, or a leashed one, and then fortunately Nyneave is able to escape. Min is also captured. So that's where Liandrin leads them through the ways, and they come out the other side, and they're met by a Shan Chan female captain, and she is the one who takes the possession of the two girls with her little entourage of people.
So I think Liandrin was probably one of the Aes Sedai at the meeting as well. In the prologue,
because there were two Aes Sedai identified.
Two Aes Sedai. Wonder who the second one was. We'll have to find out.
Yep, we don't know.
Don't know yet. So we had Inktar at the meeting. We had Liandrin at the meeting. We had Bors was the White Cloak. Trying to remember who else was there, but probably a lot.
They
of
said
the people,
there was a Karian in there, which is
probably a lot of the people that were there were characters that we met throughout the story.
So the Karian, and we'll talk about, he's a lord, and then I think there were two of them. I think there was a male and a female, but those were dark friends that we did get introduced to. They're not just nameless people. Robert Jordan described them for a reason.
So all of those people are, well, it says specifically, I'm looking at the wiki here with a list of the people there. It says a tinker wearing green pants and a yellow coat.
Right, a tinker was there. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think we got to see any tinkers in this book, though. They were only in the first book.
But, yes, I think you're right.
More mysteries. There's only 12
other
more books to figure out the mysteries.
Right. Yep.
Yes. All right, yeah, that's gonna do it. So we're gonna wrap it up on this first episode here. The next episode, we will continue talking about The Great Hunt, Book 2 of The Wheel of Time. So we'll pick it up with the Shan-Chan stuff and all the things happening in Karaethon and the Deus Damar, the Great Game. We'll get into all of that kind of stuff. And so yeah, should be a good time. So stay tuned for part 2 if you want to hear all that stuff. If you want more pages of light content, you can go to our website, pagesoflight.com. You can follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads, all sorts of things. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you would like to see the video version of this podcast, as well as some other videos and stuff that I put out, reviews and stuff like that. I'm currently working on a review for Brandon Sanderson's Cytonic, which is his YA book. Actually, I have it right here. Here it is, Cytonic. So if you've read this book, go check it out. Well, check out the review whenever I get it up. This is book 3 in his young adult series. It's called Skyward. They are up there somewhere. That's my Brandon Sanderson shelf up there.
Okay. I thought you were pointing to the sky, like the characters like live in a space like that was in our atmosphere, but they could see us, but we couldn't see them. Sorry, that's where my brain went.
Yes, these are all my fiction fantasy books up there. So
now I get that this means look at the shelves behind me.
Well, I'm pointing at the books, all the books.
I see. I thought you were pointing to the sky where they live, because it said
the books are in the
Skyward.
clouds.
Yeah.
The series is called Skyward. The third book is called Cytonic. So
got it.
It's pretty good. So look for that if you want on the YouTube channel. You can follow Gabe if you would like at neighborhoodnerdservices.com. See what he's doing. Links for all of those things will be in the description, as well as a link to buy this book here, The Great Hunt. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support us, please, again, head over to YouTube and subscribe. It's free. And you can also leave us a review on your podcast app if you're listening on the audio version. And I think that's it. Any last thoughts, Gabe?
Nope. I'm ready for round 2.
Yeah, round 2. Stay tuned. It'll be up, sometime after, like a week or so after this one is up. So stay tuned for that. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening or watching. Remember to keep reading and to share the gospel with somebody this week. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
See you later.